Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, joined by Justin Wells. Got to get used to that. Justin, yesterday, big junior day on campus for the Longhorns, hosted, 70 prospects from 2025, 2026, and 2027 classes. Got to see everything UT has to offer. Saw the first half of a basketball game at the Moody Center. Prospects were able to meet with the coaching staff and Steve Sarkisian, even got to interact with some players, got to see a brand new facility, including a new recruiting lounge. And I think all of our takeaways, whether it was you, me, Eric Aline, Charlie Williams, everybody was impressed by what Texas had done on the field and were impressed by what Steve Sarkisian presented to them on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Mac Brown Junior days, maximizing that momentum coming off a big season. And that's what Sark's doing. He's capitalizing on this stuff, going to the playoff, winning the Big 12, having a big year and about to send 6 or 7 guys to the NFL. He's just capitalizing. He's making sure that they culminate all this good fortune and good vibe because it's there. And these players are tremendous. I can't tell you how many recruits I talked to who had a friend or a former teammate that were on campus at Texas or played for Texas. And so many little things tied in. But let me tell you something. There were a lot of guys on campus yesterday, Joe, as we saw. And even though it was damn cold for the majority of the day, it was warm inside the 40 acres in that facility.
Yeah, and this is kind of the I wrote about this on Wednesday. This is like the landmark beginning of the 2025 cycle. There are a lot of guys that they've been talking to already for a while. Obviously, they are working with a handful of commitments right now. But this is when that process really, the filtering begins, because making the junior day cut for some of these guys is a big deal. And that's either what seals a official visit, maybe in March, April, May, June, or it's what, may turn a kid off for some reason. So this is that real tentpole start, that landmark start, I think, for a lot of these players and for the fans. This is the first time fans who had been paying attention to 2024 are probably still interested to see what happens with Ryan Williams over at Saraland. Boom, now they can shift to the 2025 cycle. And a little bit for the coaches too. They get to size up these players in person. They get to learn a little bit more about them and their families. The families and the players get to learn more about what it would be like, on a taste of what it'd be like in a locker room and in a position room. So it's good. And hey, when you got a 12-2 Big 12 championship season, you make the college football playoff next season, you're going into the SEC with a position of strength. It's going to translate into talented players being interested. And I think we saw that with the list. A lot of the state's top players were there from the 2025 and 2026 classes. There were some top flight prospects from 2026 that stand out, in my opinion, from out of state. So that just kind of reveals that there's interest in Texas and there's interest in playing for Steve Sarkisian as well.
No, there is. And there were some new, there's always new names that pop up and new guys that we see. And Eric always says, there's always a surprise on junior day. And I think we saw that in Vandergrift edge, Deshaun Morgan. I mean, that dude looks like $1 million. Phenomenal looking athlete. Jalen Lott, a 2026 stud out of Frisco Panther Creek, who's going to be one of the top kids in the country. He showed up. I'll tell you another guy that we didn't really know about, but we know about now, and that's Gavin Nix, 2025 linebacker out of IMG Academy down in Bradenton, Florida. He made that long drive, and he got to hang out with one of his best friends, Jordan Johnson-Rebel. JJR actually, took him around to a few spots and kind of showed him the ropes. And, Nix was very, very he praised a lot of the Texas coaching staff. Tashard Choice kind of started that recruitment, but he's on the defensive side of the ball, and he looks fantastic. And I think that's the fun part about junior day. We knew the majority of guys coming, but then there was always a surprise guy or a few guys we weren't necessarily aware of, and some of those guys look absolutely fantastic.
I mean, you're naming guys. I can name guys. Will Griffin, the Tampa Jesuit quarterback. Yes. We watched that film. Tiki Holla from Bastrop nearby made the trip down, I think, with his father, and really enjoyed meeting Johnny Nansen. Kamarian Morgan, a big athletic edge prospect now at South Oak Cliff. we can just go on and on in guys, but we got to talk about someone who jumped into the boat. A little bit of a surprise, not someone we were expecting to be in the Texas 2026 class so early, but he gets things going, and that's Aledo running back Raycine Guillory, about 5'9", 170. On three, hasn't really started to go through rankings yet. Nobody really has for the 2026 class. I believe, if I'm looking at his profiles right, he was at Mansfield Lake Ridge, and then he transferred to Aledo, and it was part of a great season for the Bearcats. Obviously, hey, you got to start somewhere. What's Texas starting out with Raycine Guillory in the 2026 class?
Speed. God-given, blistering track time speed. This is a kid you don't need to look at. He doesn't need a star ranking. Just turn on the film. He can go. And, he's had a program in Aledo that's always churning out pretty good prospects. But in the next few classes, Aledo is loaded. I mean, they've got some real athletes coming up, and Guillory is probably one of the top ones. With guys like Javion Osborne and KJ Edwards and Tredarian Ball, Choice has always shown a penchant to go out of state so far for most of his running back takes. That's kind of been because he built a lot of relationships when he was at Georgia Tech down in Florida. He has the West Coast connection with Mater Dei and Jordan Davison. And so most of his guys were out of state. Well, 2026, he gets to stay in state. And all the guys are within about 2 or 3 hours of each other, which is incredible if you're trying to hit recruiting trips. Guillory is just speed, man. You get this guy in space, and he is gone. Like there's no stopping him. And speed is the ultimate equalizer in sports. And so Texas is not only trying to get large humans on the offensive line. They're not just trying to get monster defensive, giant defensive tackles and headhunting linebackers and covered safeties and wide receivers that can go vertical. They want speed at every spot. And Raycine Guillory is the definition of quickness and go.
Yeah, you look at Aledo, one of the most successful programs in Texas high school football, 5A program. If they got successful football, it probably means they have successful track. As a freshman, Guillory for the JV squad over at Aledo had an 11.73 100-meter I'm seeing on athletic.net, and then a sub-24 200 meters. So then you go and turn on his film, see him being a part of the state champions, I believe. He's picked up speed, and he's only getting a little bit faster. I know it kind of seems inconsequential, but I like that you start your class in state. I don't think there's anything wrong with starting it out of state. But when you get the running back for the state champs or state finalists at the very minimum, been a long time since mid-December. It helps with the conversation among kids who are not only at maybe Aledo, who have some talented prospects year over year, but also in the Metroplex, and also anybody who can turn it on, whatever RSN is going to carry the state championships in high school football next year, and see, hey, that really good running back on that really good team going to Texas because he sees what is happening at Texas. You mentioned all those different running backs in the class, whether it be Tredarian Ball, Javion Osborne, any of a number of guys, KJ Edwards, all three of those guys were at Texas. And those are all 2026 running backs to keep an eye on. But Raycine Guillory starts it. How do you think that may affect recruiting in that 2026 running back class? I know there's a long way to go, and heck, there's going to be portal. There's very likely to be an effect from the portal on the running back room before those guys even consider taking official visits. What do you think, at least as it stands right now, and kind of thinking about the roster, how do you think that affects 26 running back recruiting?
I mean, this is a great question because I think this summarizes what we're about to see from the 2025 and 2026 cycle for Texas. They've got momentum. They got good vibes. They're going to Alabama and taking who they want. They've just destroyed the transfer portal. Raycine Guillory is the epitome of, if you've got a spot, you better get it. Don't screw around. Guillory, that was their mindset. Not going to screw around. We got an opportunity here. Let's jump on it. Because Tashard Choice, he doesn't offer a lot of running backs. There's not a lot of guys on that big board. He is very specific on who he wants. And so I think it affects those guys a little bit in the sense that there's going to be some urgency now from more players in the next two cycles to get in the boat. Because if you don't, Texas isn't going to wait. They only hand out a certain number of offers every year, and for the ones that are mostly committable, if you've got an opportunity to get a spot, you better get it. And Guillory got it, with speed, and so it was essential. He comes from a place that they utilize their running back almost too much. Jonathan Gray came to Austin with a little bit of tread missing. Jason McClellan came to Alabama with a little bit of tread missing. And so Guillory's a guy that, he's going to tell the other guys, I'm not screwing around. I want to go to Texas. I know I got an offer, and I'm going to jump in the boat. And what it does is it shows the other guys, don't mess around. If you've got an opportunity to get into this squad, get into this class, get into this cycle, you better do it.
We'll knock out an ad read really quickly. Got to thank our friend Andre the Lawyer. Andre the Lawyer is a longtime Inside Texas user. Andre the Lawyer never takes more than their clients. No win, no pay, no upfront costs. Principal office is in Dallas, Texas, and Andre the Lawyer has been representing injured Longhorns throughout the state of Texas. Every client gets a personalized text message number so they can contact the team and get direct access to the lawyer all day and all night. Call Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. Whether you're a car wreck, 18-wheeler accident, slip and fall, or anything else, call 214-444-8808. Justin, we talked about a 2026 prospect. We talked about some 2025 prospects, but we have so much information over on InsideTexas.com, including feedback from specific prospects, top guys like Kamarian Morgan we mentioned, and you mentioned Deshaun Morgan, no relation, I believe, because one's from the Metroplex, the other is actually from Corpus, but is playing at Austin Vandegrift. So many different players. Parents gave good feedback, but when you're thinking about a cold day and all this excitement at Texas, what are some of your big picture takeaways? Maybe mention one or two interactions that feed into what gave you that takeaway.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to remember is the cold. I've learned you can't tweet when it's cold, when it's that cold. It doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how many hand warmers you put in your pocket, like you're in a deer stand. It's tough. But you know what? I think that shows how good Texas has it right now, because they still had that many people come. That many people show up. They had guys that were waiting to get on a shuttle bus. There were so many prospects coming in. I think it almost overwhelmed the staff a little bit. Biggest takeaways were, the players always say nice things. I mean, that's pretty typical. Love the environment, love the atmosphere, love the facilities, love the coaches. I mean, they all kind of say the same thing in some sort of way. One takeaway was Ricky Stewart getting offered. And we'll hit on some of the new offers, but he was almost emotional when he was describing how important this offer was. And, we reported a few days ago, I talked to Ricky when Texas came through last week, and he had essentially, this was his dream offer. He'd always wanted Texas, and this kid, like 25 offers, Michigan, Alabama, LSU, Oregon, like Ole Miss, but he wanted Texas. That's the one he wanted. And just his reaction, he couldn't even put it into words how excited he was. And that really stood out. Keati Armstrong is just big, like just large, and his dad is large. Jonte Newman looks phenomenal, offensive lineman out of Bridgeland. His dad's 6'10", so we know where that's going. Dad played basketball at Jackson State, and so he's still got some growth plate in those feet that are going to still extend. Jonte looked outstanding. Best handshake, Nick Townsend, tight end out of Spring Decaney. My hand is still sore. Now, I've shook hands with Adrian Peterson, and after I got back from the emergency room, I had told people that was the best, the strongest handshake I'd ever had. Townsend was challenging it. Townsend wanted to challenge it. And you know what? That's a mark of a good young man when he puts some good effort and love into that handshake. That's a big deal in the state of Texas for a man. And so cold, but I'll give you one more takeaway. It's amazing how many people watch this show. It's amazing how many people watch Inside Texas YouTube channel, football YouTube channel. I am still surprised when people come up and introduce themselves because they recognize us now. And so I know it's that's a little selfish, but man, that was a takeaway. I wasn't expecting all these people to be such, astute viewers of Inside Texas YouTube channel. But ultimately, it was a pretty day. It got a little overcast there in the evening, and it got really chilly. But I'm going to give the parents and players a lot of credit. They stood out and talked to us. They could have gotten their car, warmed up, and drove home because they've got long drives for the most part. But they didn't. They stayed out and talked to us. And I talked to a ton of parents, and I met some little brothers that I know. Listen, we talked to John Turntine and his father. Remember the name Tylen Turton? He's an 8th grader, wide receiver, the little brother. It's similar to when Landon Jackson came in, years ago when he brought his little brother Lance. And it's like, okay, well, you'll be the next one up. And so, and then another guy, speaking of Lance, he was on campus, and he's a big top target that Texas absolutely loves, and I think they're in an outstanding position for in that recruitment right now. And so, a lot of takeaways. But I'm curious what you saw, because you were down there in the mix too. You were there early. You got there early, and you were out there, and you at least you got a little bit of sunlight. What was your takeaways?
I'm thinking of, like I mentioned, we have so many different reactions from recruits, from us, the Inside Texas staff at InsideTexas.com. So make sure you go check that out. And hey, like you mentioned, like this video, subscribe to the channel. You learn things like Justin Wells isn't actually Leonard Washington from watching Inside Texas football. So, but you think about the different types of recruits that were there. That's what stands out to me. When we've been covering Texas Junior Days during the 7 to 9 win category seasons and a couple of 5s, they're gonna get the good players from this state visiting. Whether you're in Dallas, whether you're in Austin, you're in Houston, you're in San Antonio, you're gonna check out Texas just because of the brand, the profile of the school. Even if the football is, you're gonna check it out. There's always good players there. But there's also another group that's always there, which is legacy and family connections. What was it? James Lott's son, I think you had mentioned, had made it. Connor Vosick, little brother of Colton and son of Brian, from the 2026 class, also at Westlake. Or maybe it's 2025. He was there. Yeah. Landon Rink, I believe, made another visit into town. You get the legacies. You get that group.
Cedric Griffin's
Cedric Griffin with Swade. Yeah, he made it in. So you're getting that group. That's a positive sign. You're getting some out-of-state guys who are, well regarded. Whether it be from Louisiana, from California, from Florida, you're getting those guys. But not only are you getting out-of-state guys, and this is the thing that really stands out to me, you're getting some elites. Like what was it? Sean Scott, correct? From Mater Dei, yes. One of the best linebackers in the 2026 class, one of the best players in the country in the 2026 class. He made it in. And, I know there's some modern day connections at Texas that have started to be developed between Brandon Baker, Spencer Shannon, Steve Sarkisian's son, Brady, played out there for a little bit. But you're starting to get national elites from a school like that. You are also starting to get national elites from schools that are, in pipelines from other recruiting rivals. If you look at, I believe, I can't remember, I'm trying to find his name right now, but he is from Baton. I think he attends Baton Rouge Catholic. Yeah, Blaine Bradford. He's number 20. He's the number 4 overall prospect in the 2026 class, according to On3. He makes it to Texas, and you got a picture of him throwing up the hook'em on his way into the facility. Yeah. Those types of players, there have been times when they don't give Texas a time of day. Yeah. But for someone like Sean Scott, who even with those connections, be like, I'm going to go check out Texas. For someone like Blaine Bradford, who's the number 4 prospect and in LSU's backyard at Baton Rouge Catholic, to come check out Texas. That speaks to Texas profile. For quarterbacks, we saw we have raved over Will Griffin after watching his film from Tampa Jesuit. Quarterbacks are also coming to Texas because they see guys like Quinn Ewers. They see recruiting wins like Arch Manning. They see that, and they're like, I want to be a part of that. They see KJ Lacey. They see the receiving talent. And I think that's what has really stood out to me most is that you get the normal group that you have, just really good players from Texas who are interested in Texas because of its standing in the state. They're always showing up. The legacies are showing up. But now you're getting some interest from, even if they are in the 2026 class, from these national elite guys that are going to become battles between, thinking about Bradford, A&M, Texas, LSU, Georgia. I bet Tennessee tries to get involved. Ole Miss, it's going to become one of those, Rams butting heads recruitments, and Texas is going to be right in the middle of those. And I think that's what is really, great to see, is that we are covering recruits whose profile are the type of profiles that everybody who likes recruiting pays attention, not just Texas fans, not just, even A&M or LSU fans who see someone like Bradford, but just national recruitments that everybody wants to key in on and learn a little bit about. Any thoughts on that, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, it ties into Texas has a really good vibe right now, and we've said this on these videos 100 times. These players are as big a recruiters as the coaches, especially in the DFW area in the Metroplex. Like that's a big thing, and so Texas is in a position now where they're like, we have 25 spots, take it or leave it. And you got people clamoring to get on campus, to get in front of Sark, to get one of those spots. It's a little different now than it has been in the last decade that we've covered it. And so that's a really valid point. I love the Will Griffin kid coming in. That's an offer to me. But Sark didn't offer. And it's nothing against Griffin. He explained to him, I don't offer a lot of quarterbacks. I have a very strict prerequisite of what I want in the quarterback position. And so, and Griffin was good with that. He's going to be, he's going to Texas A&M today after this visit. And so I won't be surprised if he gets offered, but I love that Sark lets them know, look, you're on the radar. You're a guy we need, because those out-of-state guys, this is on their dime, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. And so, and then with like a Jordan Davison coming in for, I want to say his 5th visit. I caught up with him late last night. Modern day kids didn't leave till later. And that pipeline, if you open that valve's open. That valve's open, and it's. I don't think it's going to be closed for a while. Jordan Davison, Marcus Harris, Sean Scott, like you mentioned, Nasir Wyatt. There's a lot of good guys there, and so yeah, I echo the same sentiment. I think Sark's looking at him like, look, we got 25 spots. Who wants in?
We'll talk a little bit now about some of the new offers, and to me, there's only one that stands out, and that was the one to Ryan Foji, the offensive tackle over at Cypress Bridgeland. Jonte Newman showed up at Texas as well. His teammate, his tandem mate, he was one of the early offers, I think last summer, from
last year.
Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian. And Jonte is one of the better offensive tackles in the country. Foji is also helps give them a great tandem, but he showed up without an offer, and he left with one. And I don't think that Foji and Newman are by any means a package deal, but it's nice to be able to talk to your teammate and bounce things off and have some common schools to discuss. And Texas, in looking for a big human, added an offer to Ryan Foji. Any other offers to you that stood out? To me, that was the big one.
The Ricky Stewart offer was notable. We knew it was coming, but it was still noteworthy because we understood, one, how good of a talent Stewart is, and two, how important that Texas offer was to him. He's committed to SMU with teammate Demetrius Brisbane, who is also on campus, who's also holds a Texas offer at defensive back, and will also probably take an official visit this summer. That to me, Ricky getting that offer, I think, was a game changer. This is a guy of very, very little words. He does not say much, and when he speaks, people listen. And so I like that one. The Michael Terry offer was interesting to me because you're looking at the On3 industry ranking #1 athlete in the country. And last year's On3 industry ranking #1 athlete in the country, Terry Bussey, Texas was a little late to the party on that one, which was a little surprising since he's been a superstar since he was in 8th grade. But nevertheless, Michael Terry got that offer, and I think that was big for him. He wants to play close to home, the Alamo Heights, San Antonio area cat. Finding a position is going to be tough. He could play running back. He could play receiver, maybe some tight end. I think he'd be even more valuable on the defensive side. That was an offer. I was not expecting the Connor Cartley offer. And then I watched his tape. That's a 6'5", 290-pound offensive lineman out of Prosper, of the Jake Major Prospers. That kid is violent. Like, I don't know how much of that's going to translate at the next level. He certainly has the size and disposition, but he plays with a mean streak. And so that was definitely some good tape as well. But that's the fun part to me, because they're always going to hand out a few new offers, and they know exactly who they're going to offer before they come onto campus. And I think it justifies to the kids that they made that trip. You know, they told Ricky Stewart, we want to offer you, but we need to see you on campus. And Ricky couldn't have gotten a car. He was like listening to George Strait run. He couldn't get there fast enough. And so ultimately the new offers to me stand out, because those are kids that have worked hard. They all have offer sheets from other big schools, but for some reason, the Texas offer just resonates better right now. And it's because Texas is the in-state school. It's because they're headed into the SEC. It's because they just came out of a college football playoff and had an incredible season. They're returning a ton of talent. There's just a good momentum there. And so those new offers, I feel like the kids felt were justified. Like, man, I really wanted this. I came down. I did what I needed to do. I talked to the coaches. I met with the players. And then they extended that offer. And to some of them, that was a dream come true.
I think the last thing we got to get to is what's next. This is basically Texas in the past has hosted multiple junior days. Some they kind of would split priorities and others, but they didn't do that this time. They said, come on, and a lot showed up. But what's next? And I think it starts with spring visits. When a lot of these prospects have spring break, they like getting up and checking out a practice if they're able to during spring football. But hey, the next stage, I think, is making the top lists and then fighting for official visit spots over the course of the next few weeks, months, and then fighting on those official visits.
Yeah, right now, that's a loaded question. What's next for Texas recruiting? Texas, it's an open period, so they're able to go out and see kids. And if you'll notice, with the rules changes, they're able to interact with those kids a little bit more when they go on these visits. Kobe Sellers, 2 days before he came on campus for his junior day, and that's another kid that I think Texas is in a fantastic spot for. Watch Oklahoma there, watch Georgia there, and his teammate Anthony Williams is already committed into the mix, and Anthony's already working on Kobe a little bit. But it's Sark and Coach Gideon came to see him just 2 days ago, and then he comes back to Austin, and to me that's relationship building right there. That's foundational to me. What's next is going to be once they start spring practice, you're going to see more guys come in and check out some practices. Ricky Stewart told us he's going to watch practice. Lance Jackson told me he's going to come to a practice. Michael Terry told me he's coming to a practice. I think Dramad Odoms, the offensive tackle out of Houston Lamar, wants to come in for a practice. Nick Townsend wants to come in for the spring game. I think you're going to have a pretty large visitor list once that spring game starts to build out. But right now, you're going to see Texas focusing on the next few weeks. They've got transfer guys coming in for visits, transfer portal guys. They're still watching the portal. Defensive line is a priority, and they're going to check that box. Ryan Williams, one of the top players in the country for 2024, reclassified from 2025. He's on campus next weekend, Joe, for an official visit. Some might say that's the biggest recruitment left right now that Texas is focusing on, because Ryan Williams comes in and he has an Xavier Worthy type impact. It's early and often. And so the fact that his quarterback, KJ Lacey, is also going to be in the mix. He's committed to Texas, obviously, from Saraland. I think that's kind of going to be the next priority. Seeing a few more of these portal guys come through and get a little bit of one-on-one. With junior day, it can be a little congested. It's almost like a conveyor belt coming in and out of Sark's office, and you don't ever want to make a player or a parent feel like, oh, you're getting this much time and then next comes in. But so these next few weeks for Texas, they're going to get a lot of one-on-one with these guys. Texas and Chris Jackson went to see Ryan Williams last week, and talking to sources there, he got to talk to the mother and the father together, and they had dinner and they discussed a lot of things. And the biggest takeaway there was it looks like the Williams family is really eager to see what Texas has to offer. They're coming in a little late on this one, but with Alabama's turmoil and with Auburn still strongly in the mix and Texas A&M trying to pull him in that direction, he was at College Station last weekend. That's what's going to happen next for Texas. They're gonna focus on a few of these guys here and there to try to finish up the 2024 cycle, which 1st of February. That one will officially come to an end. Ryan Williams, I believe, turns 17 on National Signing Day. And then it's going to be some transfer portal guys. And it's not just the big defensive lineman out of Arizona. I think you're going to see a few other guys trickle in over the next week or so, next couple of weeks. That's what's next. And then once they get into spring ball, that's when you're going to see more prospects coming in. You're going to see Texas coaches on the road more. They're going to be hitting high schools from coast to coast. Sark and his guys are really, really good about covering their bases and making sure they hit every spot, every region. You got Terry Joseph in the boot. You got Tashard Choice over in Florida. You got Kyle Flood hanging out with Jersey Shore. On the West Coast, there's no shortage of Jeff Banks and Chris Jackson and Pete Kwiatkowski. And so I think they got this thing covered. And I think that's what you're going to see next for Texas is just some cherry picking with this 2024, some portal guys that they're going to look at right before they get ready to start off spring ball. And then ultimately get out and go and see these kids. And then before you know it, Joe, it's camp season.
I think you've got it covered too. We've got it covered over at InsideTexas.com. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, head to Inside Texas where you can get so much more intel for just $1 for the next month. Not going to want to miss it. Get you all the way through that Ryan Williams commitment whenever he decides, whatever he decides. And then, hey, spring ball's right around the corner. We'll have off-season notes. No better time to join. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Andre DeLawyer for sponsoring. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.